Hello, hello. Welcome to the 39th episode of the Veggies Abroad Vegan Travel Podcast with the chief veggie pusher, myself, Rebecca Gady Sawicki. Some of you may already be familiar with Veggies Abroad, but for those of you who aren't, we're a full-service vegan travel company that offers custom planning services, small group trips, a helpful blog chock full of just about everything a vegan or veg-curious traveler could possibly need, and this podcast. With this podcast, I aim to amplify the voices of businesses championing vegan and vegan-friendly options, responsible tourism practices, the environment, community impact, all things that we need more of and must actively support. So, as you're listening to this, I am just on my way back from an amazing adventure in Iceland. I hope you all followed along on Instagram. And if you were having a little bit of FOMO, don't worry. I am working on bringing this trip back for 2026. The details and dates are still to be determined, but as soon as I know, or right after I know, you'll all know. You might be thinking that after a trip like that, I probably schedule my own vacation of sorts. I wish. I will actually be back on the road again in less than 2 weeks. I'm headed first to Madrid for a travel conference and then on to Turkey. After that, there will be a bit of a break. The travel conference that I'm headed to is a little unique, and conference might actually not be the correct word for it. It's more of a gathering of travel buyers and sellers from around the world. I actually think they technically call them shows. The company that runs it brings in buyers, people like me, to connect them with boutique type properties and companies, sort of like travel dating. Yeah, like a travel dating show. This will be my first time attending this one, and I've heard some really good things about it, so I'm really excited about who I might possibly meet, but I also still get a little bit anxious. When I first started, I met with a company that manages hotel properties, and I'll never forget the sales guy telling me that I wouldn't last selling travel just to vegans. He made some comment about how I needed to diversify to survive. I actually think he told me that I needed to add gluten-free or something to it. And I laughed and I was like, okay, buddy, got it. I have actually had the opportunity to see that guy a couple of times since that first meeting. And it always gives me great pleasure to think, oh, hey, buddy, I'm still here when he goes to shake my hand. I know he's not the only one to think things like that. There will probably be people at this travel show that will think the same thing. But I think at the same time that uniqueness, or what some people think is weirdness, is a fabulous thing and needs to be celebrated and is necessary to drive any type of change. I will keep you all posted on how it all goes. Well, we're going from hotels to house sitting for this episode, and I think it's quite appropriate that as I say this, I am also covered in cat hair. My office assistant, who is incredibly cute, she is awful at cleaning up after herself. If you've ever been curious about this as a way of travel, then this episode is definitely for you. Even if you think, oh no, I will absolutely never in a million years do that, I think you should still listen. Trust me on that one. And to help me break down my previous house sitting adventures is my part-time traveling companion, Matt. Hi, Matt.
Hello.
All right, house sitting. It's been a while actually since I've done this. When I first was contemplating career change and then initially changed my career, I did house sit, I think, through, what would have been 2021 and 2022. And that was really great. But since things have gotten crazier, I haven't been able to do it as much. And I actually remember when I first told you I was going to house sit, I think you thought I was crazy.
Yeah, I think just a little bit, but I know I knew like you wanted to start traveling more, but I was like, why doesn't she just get a hotel or, some type of property or something and go and stay somewhere? Like, why does she want to go and like watch somebody
stay in other people's houses?
Like, what's that all about? It was a little awkward, but I mean, when I started to think about it and like you started to talk about the benefits of it, it was like, this really makes sense. But I'm trying to think back and I can't remember, how did you get started with house sitting and why did you want to do it?
So I was thinking about that too. It was a little serendipitous. I honestly feel like the universe was pointing me in that direction. I know, and maybe other people think that sounds kind of crazy, but I so when I very first started my journey of career change, the first thing I was doing was running just the blog, but then I was also writing for some other magazines and things. And so I was doing a lot about food, and that's why I wanted to find a more cost-effective way to travel. And so one of the groups that I was a part of did a webinar with a house sitting platform, and they talked about, well, this is such a great way to travel, a cool experience. If you like pets, like this is a great opportunity. So I thought, I'm going to listen into that. And I did. And obviously I really thought, okay, this could be legit. Like this sounds like a really good opportunity. So that was like my initial, like how I even found out about it as an option. It just was by happenstance. And you know, why I thought that was a good idea. I mean, really, there was, so the cost part of it, but then the other part of me was, you know, with some of these longer trips that I was doing, you know, sometimes it would be a little lonely. So I really did like the idea too of coming home to a furry friend that was happy to see me. Cause here we have multiple furry friends. And when I'm gone by myself, I don't know, it's a little sad sometimes.
So I know when you were just starting out, the idea was you want to, you know, go to all these different places. You can't always afford, you know, when you're first starting out in your business to go to all these different places on your own dime. So I kind of remember you being like, man, I really need to find something that's going to allow me to travel to a bunch of different places so I can cover the food scene in different places across the country. Because isn't that really what your first initial focus was? You were kind of like more US oriented, and you're like, well, I need to go to this city and this city and this city. And you were like, I got to find a house sit in every city I possibly can.
I did want to find a house sit everywhere I possibly could. But it wasn't just US based. I was looking everywhere and ended up house sitting around the world, which was a really cool experience. And honestly, I really needed to find a way to make things more cost effective. I used a mixture of house sitting, credit card points, like everything, because like you said, when your business is new, and also when you're trying to figure out what in God's green earth you are doing in that initial career change moment, you do have to be conscious of spending. Not like I don't have to be conscious now.
Right. So when you say why, you know, when I ask why you want to do it, do you think that the initial reason that you wanted to do it was to, you know, build your blog up and start to see new places so you'd have more places to study? Do you think that would be the main focus?
Oh, yeah, 100%, because that made it a whole lot easier, and I was able to justify the expenses. Initially, my thought was just that I was going to run the blog. The blog was going to be the main form of income, and so I needed to do as much as I possibly could to visit and eat at as many places as I humanly could.
So when you initially set out to, you know, look for these new options, like, how did you go about your search? Were you like, well, like, how did you even find out about house sitting, first of all? And then, you know, once you did find out about it, what platforms did you use when you first started out?
So like I mentioned, I listened to that webinar that I had found. It was through a group of bloggers, and that was promoting this as an option for travel. And so that's how I initially learned about it. And the platform that they were talking about in that webinar was the one I ended up using, and it's called TrustedHousesitters. There are a bunch of different house sitting platforms out there. I do not have experience with all of them. I only have experience with TrustedHousesitters. So, but I can give a little overview of a few of the other ones. So Trusted House Sitters is a certified B Corp, which is really cool. And that's a new thing that just they announced, I think, this past February. There are nearly 10,000 sits around the globe. They do require third-party verification and reviews, which is really great for both the pet sitter and the pet parents. They have a 24/7 support team. They have a vet advice line. So if something happens to the pet, if you are watching a pet, there is somebody you can call. There are a variety of different pet plans too that, you can look at for either as a pet sitter or a pet parent, and they range from $129 on up to $259. And the premium membership is really cool. It has some and other additional cool perks like accident and third party liability plan, a sick cancellation plan, 2 global airport lounge passes. So that kind of like sweetens the pot. As if you're looking at them. And the other thing too, since I am a member, I have a special code that I can pass on to everybody here. And if you want to save 25% on one of their plans, you just have to use the code Veggies Abroad. And that makes it even better for your first year. So, okay, let's see some of the other ones. Another one is called Mind My House. It is much smaller in comparison. There are just over 200 sits around the globe. It has a much smaller price tag. It's only $29 a year for either a pet sitting membership or a pet parent membership. Another one is Nomador. That one looks like it's mostly focused in Europe. They do have a neat stopover option, which is you can just stay with somebody for a night. Those range from 79 euros to 179 euros, which is about $90 to $203. They do, like Trusted House Sitters, have a premium plan as well, which includes cancellation coverage, and we can talk about that. But it's only up to 500 euros in cancellation support. No liability coverage and no combined membership options either. And then one last one is, it's a grouping. It's House Sitters US, Canada, Kiwi, and Aussie. So this isn't one company. Each are individual companies that come up under a main company. You do have to apply for each separately, but I think this is a good option if you want to be hyper focused on an area. Like you only want to do it in the US, you only want to do it in Canada or Australia. You do have to apply for each, like I mentioned. It is only around $50 a month for each. They don't appear to have any additional benefits associated with it. And then when I looked at it yesterday at their map, they are like hyper focused, so you can find sits just in the US or in Canada, etc. There weren't still a ton, so that's definitely something to consider when you're considering which plan to or which company to go with. Because if $29 is enticing, but if you're like, well, that's great, but there are no sits any of the places that I want to go to, like that doesn't make any sense.
Is there a link to Trusted House Sitters and your code on your website?
Yes. So actually we'll drop the code and the link into the show notes, and I'll also include a link. I did a separate review just on Trusted House Sitters and my experience and if it's worth it. So we'll drop that in the show notes too.
Okay. So now that we've talked a little bit about the different platforms, where have you house sat? Like what countries, cities, like what kind of places have you been to?
So my house sits, I've done the US, Canada, England, and Scotland. I almost had one in Italy, but it fell through. So they've covered a wide part of the world, which has been really cool for different experiences. And I actually, one of the house sits that I did in England, I did it in Brighton, which is in the south. And the people I stayed with, they actually are friends with the person who started the Trusted House Sitters platform, which I thought was really funny. When they told me that, I was like, whoa, it's a small world after all.
So have you stayed more in like city centers or were they rural areas?
All of mine, now that I'm thinking of it, they were all pretty much cities because that was really specific to what I was doing. I wanted to go to these specific cities to check out vegan food options. I have not done, and I didn't do anything that was more on the rural side of things. Yeah. All
right. So you're working mostly through Trusted House Sitters. What kind of responsibilities do you have? Do you have to do their laundry and clean their house and mow their lawn and stuff?
So every pet sit or every house sit, so I keep defaulting to pet sit, but not everyone there is a pet. Every house sit varies. And so with Trusted House Sitters, when you go to look at all of the listings, they will list out all of the things that they want you to do. So they'll, give you pet care instructions and what the care responsibilities are. So if it's a dog, like the dog needs to be walked a mile in the morning and walked a mile at noon and at dinner. If it's a cat, these are the feeding instructions. If it's a horse, these are different feeding instructions. So you could have a wide variety of different animals that you could care for. On the flip side of that, you could maybe have no animals. I will say that looking at those, I did sometimes search to see if there were like no animal sits, and those did not come up very often. They were, most of the time people are looking for you to come and care for some type of animal, some type of 4-footed or 2-footed animal. So, something to keep in mind, like if you do prefer one type of animal over another. And then as far as the other responsibilities, they'll include that as well. If like you're staying somewhere for a month, they may ask you to mow the lawn, because you have to remember, like, you're taking over their property for the month. So those responsibilities then most likely are going to fall on you. Doing their laundry, no, I don't think so. That would be kind of a weird request, but they're going to ask you also to like pick up after yourself. Make sure you leave things the way that you found them. There are sometimes some people will have a cleaning service come in. So like that's a nice benefit, and then you don't really have to worry about that. But every house sit will vary, and all of them will tell you up front exactly what their responsibilities are and what the expectations of you are. And if it's not clear in the listing, then you need to absolutely ask and make sure that you guys are on the same page with that. A lot of pet parents will provide you with what's called like a welcome guide, and that will outline everything about their property, everything about, the pets, if there are any, your responsibilities, and, so on, so that it's 100% clear. You don't want to go into something like that and not have those responsibilities clear.
Okay, so I've got lots of questions, but the first one...
Okay, go for it.
The first one is, would you want someone watching your pets at your home while you're gone?
We have had people watch our pets in our home while we've been gone. To be honest, I do much prefer it, because I know like our cats are really people cats. That was a weird phrase. Our one cat. Okay, I'm going to back up out of that. Our one cat's a really people-y cat. Our other cat will hate everybody that is not us. But I mean, she says that she does like human interaction. She doesn't like being alone. So yeah, I do think that's really nice. And so I totally understand that from other people when they're like, we don't want them to be alone. And I didn't want to be alone either. So it works. It's a win-win.
So like, what if you get to the house sit and you're watching a cat and the cat absolutely hates you?
Oh, it happened. So, I mean, especially with cat, well, I guess with any animal, honestly, that can happen. They all have their own individual little cute personalities. I was house sitting in London, and the couple asked me to come in the day before and meet the cat, and then also just like meet them and see their apartment. And so I did. And they told me before I came, they're like, okay, so I wish I remember the cat's name. I bet if I had looked it up before this, maybe I still had it somewhere. But anyway, it was a really cute black cat. And this was also a little backstory. This was also, I'd been catless for a little while. I'd been traveling for a bit. I hadn't had any cat interaction, so I was really excited to meet this cat. And so they told me, they're like, we just want you to know she doesn't, I think her name was Bean, actually, now that I am rambling. Bean generally does not like other people. She can be very grouchy, we'll say. And I was like, that's okay. Like, no problem. I respect that, blah, blah, blah. And in the back of my head, I was like, please, Bean, love me. Don't hate me. So I come into their apartment, and they're super lovely. And the cat comes up to me and rubs up against me. And they're like, oh, what is happening? The cat loves you right off the bat. And I was like, I know it. I do it. I knew it. I knew the cat would love me. And so I was like, we're going to be cool. Don't you worry. Bean and I are best friends now. Like, like, leave me some treats, tell me the other things. And I'm like real happy about this. And so I'm excited the next day that I'm like going to come in and hang out with Bean. And I come in, I like open the door, and Bean, like, I swear to God, she looked at me like, who the hell are you? And why are you coming into my house? And so I was like, hi, Bean, remember me? And I like went up to pet her, and she was like, oh no, you can just turn right around, lady. And she went to smack me. And I'm like, oh no, this is not going to be good. And so then the rest of that, like, I tried to coerce her into liking me. I tried to tempt her with food, and she was like, nope, not having it. I tried to tempt her with toys. She was like, no, I'm going to take your hand off, lady. Like, you better get away from me. And so I was really sad. And they texted me, and they're like, how's it going? Does Bean still love you? And I was like, nope, she hates me now. And they're like, well, maybe it'll take a little bit. Like, give her a day or something. She'll warm up to you. And so that night, like, I left the bedroom door open thinking, okay, maybe she'll come in. I woke up, and she was like, oh no, I'm not coming in there with you, lady. Like, you're crazy. I woke up in the middle of the night, and Bean is sitting on the end of the bed just staring at me, like dead stare, like I am planning your demise. At that point, I was like, all right, this cat's never gonna like me again. We're done. This relationship is over.
Yeah, knowing you, like, I can imagine every house sit that you go into, your main goal is to win over the pet so that they love you and adore you.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to be their best friend. Hey there, fantastic listeners. Let's hit pause on this episode for a thrilling announcement, a golden ticket to globetrot with Veggies Abroad. Veggies Abroad isn't just your go-to for vegan guides and trip planning tips. It's your passport to extraordinary small group journeys, carefully crafted by the ultimate veggie pusher and your favorite podcast host, me, Rebecca Gady Sawicki. I've spent countless hours researching the best vegan hotels, food, and experiences, and now I'm bringing those experiences directly to you. Join me and my newfound veggie pals on escapades to exotic and exciting destinations around the world. Whether it's trekking through the Thai jungle to witness elephants in their natural habitat or exploring Iceland's famous ring road, our adventures are nothing short of spectacular. And guess what? Those aren't the only exciting trips awaiting you. So what are you waiting for? Cruise on over to veggiesabroad.com pronto. Well, how about after this episode is over to explore our dazzling lineup of tours and secure your spot today.
So, do you have a preference between dogs and cats, or when you house sit?
Oh yeah, 1,000% cats always. I am an absolute cat person.
I also for cat, right? Like, there's a reason.
Yeah. I mean, there's also another reason behind that as well. Like, not only do I just love cats, cats are so much easier. Like when you're traveling, so. If you're watching a dog, there's far more responsibility, or a horse or whatever. There's far more responsibility involved with, like, feeding schedules, walking schedules. And so it's something you have to really keep in mind when you're house sitting and pet sitting, is that you might be required to, get up at 7 a.m. and walk a mile. You might have to come back at lunch and do X, Y, Z. You might have to do something in the afternoon. So with cats, generally it's like you feed them once or twice, and then they're like, hey bro, see you when I see you. And that's cool. And that worked out really well for me, because generally when I was in most of these places, I wanted to be out and about, like visiting restaurants, checking out things, seeing other stuff. And I didn't want to be tied down to just staying in the house or the apartment all day. So that makes it a whole lot easier with cats.
You know what? I can see the reason why you wanted to do this trusted house sitting, but I could also see why it might be interesting for other people. Like, if you're considering getting a dog, like, you could house sit and live with the dog for like a week or whatever and do the house sit. And if you hated it by the end, maybe you don't want the dog, or maybe you're looking to give up your job and go and start a life on a farm. And so you decide to like do a farming trusted house sit, and you end up watching a horse, or you end up watching like some pigs, and you're like, oh my God, that was way more work than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
And so you're like, I'm going to keep my job, that kind of
totally.
stuff. But
actually that's funny, because so the house that I did in Brighton, those people were going to house sit for another family not too far from there, just east of them. And it was at a farm. And I laughed about it. And I was like, you just like want to leave your house for an hour or whatever for the weekend, or go an hour away? And they're like, yeah, I mean, like, we like being out in the country more, and then the other animals. And I was like, oh, all right, cool. You do you, boo.
Yeah, you do you. So do you think house sitting is a particularly good option for vegans?
Yeah, I specifically think it's really great for vegans because you have access to, a full house, which comes with a kitchen. So if you don't want to eat out all the time, or you're worried you're going somewhere that has like awful options, you don't have to worry about that. You can just go to the grocery store and, buy whatever you need, and it'll save you money. It saves you a headache, which is super, super nice. And it's super funny. I was talking with the marketing person associated with Trusted Housesitters, and she was like, you know what? We've had really great response from other content creators who are vegans and other writers on like the vegan spin of things. And I'm like, I'm not surprised, because it's just a really nice one. It's a really nice way to travel. But two, it alleviates like a whole headache of something you don't have to worry about or think about.
Oh, that made me think. Is there, knowing that you're coming from another country sometimes, is there ever any homeowners and pet owners that are like, do I really want this person coming in from another country to watch my cat? Like, what if their flight gets delayed, or like, what if that kind of thing happens?
Yeah, I thought about that as well. But, I was never on the pet parent side, and they would always ask me like what my flight details and stuff were. For the most part, for any of the international sits that I did, I was already going to be in the country before, like days before their sit started. So I think that put them at ease, but absolutely that would be a concern. It would be a concern for me if I was bringing someone over, but all of the people that I've sat for, I think all of them had done it with people from all over the world. And they all seemed pretty, laid back about, who was coming from where, and, if it would be an issue. So, it's definitely a risk.
So how do you think that this experience is different from just booking a hotel?
Well, I think the first thing is just the experience, because you get this really hyper local experience. You get to spend time and meet people who live in this place that you want to learn about and explore. And so they're going to give you a sneak peek into their city from their perspective and tell you about things that maybe you wouldn't find in Lonely Planet or Googling, which is really, really nice. I've had the opportunity to like share pizza with people in Scotland. I had tea with one of the homeowners in the south of England. Learned all about like what they do for a living, why they like living where they live, things that they think are great, things that they don't think are great. One of the couples on my house sat in Nashville, they picked me up at the airport. It's just like, you kind of become friends with these people. And when you're friends with someone, like you want to share everything you possibly can. And that experience, and that just enriches your travel experience. It enriches your perspective. It is completely different than if you just like showed up, you ticked the boxes of the major sites and you left. And I think that's part of the reason why I loved it so much. It just made me really appreciate places in a whole different way. And like you see a place differently is really what it flat out comes to. On the other side of it too is like, it's a huge savings. I think during the time that I used it, I probably easily saved over $5,000. Because like you think about, so the membership is $150 or $200 or whatever. But on average, a hotel room ranges about that a night. So even if you only used it for a week, that's a pretty huge savings right then and there. Saving
money and making connections. That's really a great
There's
thing.
some of my favorite like travel experiences, like with meeting some of these people. And I've said this before, I think I've said it specifically to you and to other people, that it really it restored my faith in humanity, honestly, because people were so warm and welcoming and just lovely with the things that they wanted to share, and thoughtful. Like, I think everyone that I house sit for, I'm like thinking about this now, like they left me something, like whether it was just like, people would ask me, like, what would I prefer in my coffee? We want to make sure you have oat milk. Or one couple left me, they went and bought me vegan chocolate. Another one, God, what did they leave me? Another one texted me before I came, and she was like, hey, I picked up this really cute t-shirt at a veg fest. Do you like it? And I still have this t-shirt. It's a hot pink t-shirt with a bunny on it, and I think it says ferocious vegan on it. So it's just like, you don't even know me. Like, we've met, I don't know what, like for 20 minutes. We've communicated via like text and email. And it's just like, it's really, really nice. There are truly amazing people in this world.
As I'm thinking about it too, though, you're coming into their house, you're going to watch their probably most precious possession, their animal, the thing that they love maybe the most in the world. A lot of people are like that. I know I love our pets so much. And so having someone in there and knowing that they're going to watch your house, when if you try and find things locally, sometimes you're paying people money to come in and do that. But this trusted house sitters, you're not paying these people. You're just giving someone a free place to stay who's coming from another place. And so it's really like, everyone is happy in this situation, it feels like, for the most part. But have you ever had a bad experience or challenges with this type of thing?
I mean, I think the most challenging thing was just the kitty that didn't want to be my friend. Aside from that, I did have one. So when I was in England, I did it by house sitting almost for the entire month. There were only 2 times that I didn't have a house sit, and that was just the dates didn't line up. And like 2 weeks before I was supposed to arrive, they sent me a text message, and they're like, hey, we're so sorry. We wanted to let you know that our cat died unexpectedly. Like, we're crushed, blah, blah, blah. This is really terrible. But, we know that like this is really last minute for you, and like you're going to plan to be here really soon, and you wouldn't have somewhere else to stay. So we're not going to say like, we're not going to cancel the sit on you or anything. Which was really nice that they didn't cancel it on me, and that they were still like very much welcoming. They're like, yeah, I mean, we still appreciate having someone around just to like take out the trash or whatever. And I was like, thank you so much for not doing that, because that was a week that I was staying at their house. So that could be a really big challenge. And that was always kind of like a fear. But when you're house sitting, like, you always have to have a plan B. You have to be flexible. So, I mean, that could come up. The one nice thing about Trusted House Sitters, if you do have the premium membership, is that there is a sit cancellation plan associated with that. So if something like that happens, they will provide you coverage. I think it's up to $1,500 to offset like you having to go and book a hotel room or whatever you're like out because now this house sit isn't available and it's totally screwed up your plans. So that's a really nice bonus. And I think there was only one other platform that I found that had a sit cancellation policy, but it was only 500 euros that they covered. So I mean, Trusted House Sitters, that was way more, $1,500. 500 euros, I think in dollars, what is that? Like $700 maybe? Ish. So like that's something to think about too. Like if that is a concern for you when you are looking for a plan, to pay a little more and do something like that so that you just have that as, coverage. But other than that, no, I didn't. I think sometimes with any pet, really, I think maybe I don't know if this is more of a cat thing or not, because I don't know that I ever noticed it with dogs, and I don't have as much experience with dogs. Sometimes cats, like when they have a stranger in their house, like for the first night or whatever, they can be a little weird and like run around and like keep waking you up. I think that was my biggest inconvenience. I house sat in Vancouver, and those cats, they were the cutest, chubbiest cats in the whole world. They were super, super friendly. But my first night there, they were like, who is this lady? Let's go wake her up again. And they jumped on me multiple times. I ended up having to unfortunately closed my bedroom door so that they stopped waking me up. But no, there haven't been any crazy challenges, luckily, like knock on bamboo, that have happened to me.
What a stressful feeling to go somewhere and have your house set all planned out, and then if somebody says, "Oh, sorry, we don't need you now," I can imagine that's stressful. So having that premium plan is kind of peace of mind, knowing that you'll have some type of insurance if things fall through.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's like that with travel in general. Like things can pop up all the time. Nothing is guaranteed. I'd say the one guarantee with travel is that there's always change. And so no matter how you're traveling, you always should remain flexible and, keep that in mind that you could have to have a plan B.
Good point. Really good point. So would you say you have a favorite experience?
Ooh, that is a good question.
I remember hearing stories about some cats in Nashville that you really enjoyed, and there was a neighbor cat that kept visiting you.
Oh my gosh, yeah. When I sat in Nashville, those people were so great. They were the ones that picked me up from the airport. They also, so when I stayed in Nashville, I didn't rent a car for the first few days of it because I could easily take
pass, right?
Oh, there was the other one that left me a bus pass too. Yes, they did. These guys. So the first couple days, I didn't have a car since I could take the bus to go into downtown Nashville. And she was like, "Hey, I have a pass. Just use my pass. Like, no problem." Super, super nice. But then after that, I was like, well, because I wanted to get outside of Nashville. So I did rent a car. And so I told her, I was like, "Is it okay? Should I park on the street? Can I park in your driveway?" And she was like, "Oh, I can't believe you rented a car. You could have just used our car." And in my head, I was like, "Oh my gosh, wow, you guys are incredibly generous. I don't know that I should drive your car." But yeah, so they left me the bus pass. But then on top of like them being really nice people, they had two lovely, lovely kitties. Oh, I wish I could remember their sweet names. I can picture them in my head right now. Super cute. They had a cat door. And so the cats would come and go as they please out into the neighborhood. And they had a neighborhood cat friend. And so their cat friend, he would also come into their house through the cat door as well. And I guess the neighbor, she was like, okay, but I don't know that she knew the extent that he lived at their house. And so there would sometimes be times where he would get grounded, but he would come over and he would hang out with us and lay on the porch. And they were all just super chill, snuggly cats. And it was really funny that he would also, they told me, they're like, if you don't want him coming in and out anymore, you can tell him no, just shut the cat door. And I was like, oh, I don't know about that. But he was a little challenging because sometimes he would want to eat their food. And I didn't want his mom to get mad at me. And so one night I was like, okay, you're going to have to hang out outside, or we're going to have to shut the door or whatever while I feed them. And so he came back that night and he put his paws up against the glass door and just stared in at me with his nose against the glass and was like, "Let me in. I'm so sad."
Please.
I know. I gave in. I was like, "Oh, forget it. I don't care if your mom is mad at me. I got to let you in. You're way too cute."
I just remember you calling me from there, and I remember you telling me how hot it was, and you'd be sitting on the porch.
So hot.
And you were just hanging out with these cats on the porch, and it just sounded like a nice little
it was nice
down there.
It was nice. I mean, and that's the really nice thing, to have that as company, because I don't mind being alone. Obviously, I'm alone a lot. But sometimes being alone all the time, especially if it's an extended period, gets old really fast. So it's nice to watch TV with a furry friend.
Yeah. So if somebody's looking to start doing some of these house sits, what do you recommend for someone that's thinking about it or just starting out?
So first, there are some things to keep in mind with this, to just differentiate, if this is a good idea for you. You have to be flexible. You are going to be traveling on dates that align with somebody else's schedule. So when you start to look, I think you kind of have to start looking for a sit before you really book your plane ticket or whatever, so that you can make sure that there's a sit that is available when you want to do this. So that's like one differentiating factor. If you have absolute set dates that you can only travel, then house sitting might not be the best option for you, unless like you're going somewhere that always has a ton of options and like you can pretty much have like your pick of, the pick of the prize or whatever, because there are so many. But generally speaking, that can be challenging for some people. And also some cities are really competitive. Like if you want to house sit in like London and New York City, oftentimes a lot of people do want to house sit in those cities as well too. So when you're first starting out, that can be hard, because oftentimes pet parents are looking for people who have house sat before and have like verified reviews from other people on the platform. So don't give up if, the New York City is like top of your list or whatever. I think to combat that, the best thing, and what I did first, and I think this is a really great way to know, like, is house sitting something you want to do as well too, is do a house sit that's close to you. So my very first house sit was in Toronto. And so I didn't have to fly there. I could drive. It's 4 hours for us. So it was closer to home. It was just for a weekend, an extended weekend. So the commitment for that was much lower. And then I could decide from there, like, yeah, this was a good idea, or no, this is an absolutely terrible idea. Did it once, don't ever want to do it again. And that's a really great way to test the water. And then just, always have a backup plan. And then, from there, once you've decided like, okay, like this is something I really want to do. If you like want to make sure that you like attracting other pet parents and that your profile is great, like make sure that, what I did was when I was filling out all the information about myself and adding photos, I thought about this from the perspective of, me as a parent. Like, what am I looking for in a house sitter? Like, what do I want to see? What would make me feel comfortable about having this person in my home?
It sounds so just like dating. Like you have to build
a little bit. Yeah, pet dating. Yeah, absolutely. Like not make yourself enticing, but just like be as detailed and honest about your experience as possible. And you can also get outside references. So ask your friends if you've ever done anything for anybody else. Ask them to write a reference for you, and that can really help as well too.
You've got to stand out from other people, right? And that's the kind of thing. So somehow you got to make yourself like
absolutely
be attractive to these.
Right. And I would say also too, like add that you're vegan or vegetarian in there, because there are other vegan, vegetarian pet parents out there that are looking for that too. I did find that occasionally in different places that houses would be like, hey, we're vegan or vegetarian, like please don't cook meat in our pans. There was actually one, I think the dates didn't align, but I just sent them a message and I was like, hey, I'm vegan too. Like we should stay in touch, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, oh my God, yeah, that would be great. It'd be so awesome to have you. So that can help you stand out as well.
So I want to go back for a minute. You touched on this. Okay. You touched on this a little bit, but I just want you to maybe say a few more words on it. Do you plan your house sit around the house sit or around a destination?
So when I was doing it frequently, I did it around the destination. So before I would book my plane ticket, I was watching the site for house sits that fell within the dates that I wanted to travel. And so you can put an alert on different house sits that you've seen before, so that when they come available again, like you'll be notified of the open dates. But you can also give yourself alerts for destinations. So like daily, I would get updates for, cities like Washington, D.C. or London or Edinburgh. And so it would always tell me when there were new things available. So I can immediately go in there and then read what they were looking for, decide, okay, is this a good option? This is actually how I landed the Edinburgh sit, because there weren't a ton of sits available during the time frame that I was going to be there. And so I just I put an alert and I honestly think I refreshed. I watched my alerts, but then I also refreshed it multiple times a day just to see if anything else was new. And so when it came available, I was like, okay, great. And I applied right away. As soon as I saw it.
That's really an interesting thing. So I guess there's a bunch of different ways you could come up with a strategy for this. So if you're monitoring flights to a specific place and, throughout different times of the year, you'll look at those flights and then you'll look at are there a bunch of sits during this time of year? So it's there's a lot of things that will factor into how to make this work best for you. So with the platforms, are there specific things you need to get started?
So when you want to get started, you first just have to purchase the membership. So you decide which one's best for you. And then from there, you go through a background check, and then you create your profile. And so once your profile is created, you can start applying to sits from there. And I would say when you start to apply to sits, make sure you really fully read what people need from you, and so that you understand, and then tell the pet parent when you're applying why you're a good fit for this. Why are you better? So for example, I did a house sit for a lady in Washington, D.C., and she had an elderly cat that had kidney failure. And we had a cat that had kidney failure the year previous, I think. So I completely understood what that meant. And I also am skilled. I don't know if skilled is the right word. I'm knowledgeable at giving fluids. So I told her that. I was like, look, I understand, how stressful this can be. I can give fluids if your kitty needs it, blah, blah, blah. And so I think that helped seal my deal for that one. And so just making sure that you connect with that. And also, one thing that pet parents told me is that oftentimes when people would apply, they would get pet names wrong. So if you're applying to something, double check. And I would also always look back. I would write their note to them. And then I would look back in the profile and be like, okay, the cat's name is
Archimedes.
Sandy. Archimedes. That's quite a cat. Is Sandy. And so I would just double check that, you get that right as well too. And I'd say after you get through your first sit and you get that first verified review, things get a lot easier, and always make sure you ask for reviews after the sit, especially if it went particularly well. I think the platform automatically sends something for you to be reviewed, and you get to review the pet parents as well too. So make sure you leave them a review as well, because that helps future sitters too. So I would always look through and see what other sitters would say about people before I would apply. And if they were these people are awesome, I'd be like, okay, cool. If they were these people are crazy and they have unrealistic expectations, and I'm not going to apply for that. So that really helps on both sides of the fence, and is, a really great feature too.
Yeah, I'm just thinking back to those days of giving Chelly the fluids, and
I know she hated it, and I hated doing it.
And I'm imagining you having to do that at one of these house sets. And
it was a challenge
by yourself too. That was really hard, I'm sure. Do they let you house sit as a couple?
Yes, you can apply as a couple. You can apply solo. Yeah. You can apply as a family as well. I would say, if it is a family, the only thing is that you need to be very upfront with that you have a family. And also sometimes in the listings, they will say this sit is only good for females, or it's good for couples, or kids can't be under the age of X, because you have to keep in mind not all pets are good with kids or good with everybody. So that's something, when you're reading these to look out for, okay, well, maybe this isn't the best thing for you.
So you're going into your very first sit, and you're nervous, you're excited, you're going to a new place. What's something you wish you knew before you had your first experience?
Ooh, I've just wished I would have done it sooner. I just enjoyed it that much. And I'm bummed, like now, especially as we're talking about this and I'm thinking about all of those from the past, that I don't have the bandwidth to like add it in. I was thinking the other day, I was like, well, maybe I could like go and do that as a house or something. But it's just with my schedule now, it's really, really challenging. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if there's anything that I like didn't know or wish I would have known. I think it just wish that I would have done it sooner, because it was just such a cool thing to be able to do, to explore different parts of the world in a different way, to stay in places that were different, to have like such a neat experience in a way that like I wouldn't have had any other way. And I learned about places that I wouldn't have learned about.
Awesome. What was the name of that website you used again? I want to look it up now.
Trusted House Sitters, for everyone who is listening. And again, I will put this in the show notes. If you are interested in, getting a membership, you can save 25% if you use the code VeggiesAbroad, and we'll drop the link to it in there. I'll also include the link to the review that I wrote about them. And if you have questions about, utilizing the platform or house sitting in general, like always feel free to reach out. It's not the best option for everybody, but I do think it's like a good option for most. And I think especially if you think, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. I used to think that too. I thought that like the idea of going into somebody else's home and staying there was absolutely crazy. And now I'm like, no, it's actually the absolute best way to travel. And I just should have absolutely done it sooner. So, and nobody can see this right now, but one of our little buttons is now joined us on the camera. She's probably about to yell at Matt to let her go. And I guess with that, is that all your questions for me about house sitting?
That's all my questions. I'm now going to go sit with our little house beings.
Oh. All right. Well, thank you all for listening. I'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. If you did, please consider subscribing and leaving a review. If you'd also like to learn more about upcoming Veggies Abroad tours or get additional travel help, visit veggiesabroad.com and also join our newsletter. It's the best way to stay up to date with loads of new content, like where to find gorgeous vegan hotels, what to eat in cities around the world, trip planning tips, and so much more. Well, that's all I've got for now. Until next time.